Welcome everybody to the ASC live stream. I'm a little off. This is the first time I've been on in months.
I know.
So I didn't know if I was demoted out of the intro. So
you do it so well. I just figured I'll let you take it over.
It's like all this nostalgia is kicking in. Anyways, everybody, welcome to the AFC. I can't even pronounce the name of the company anymore. ASC live stream. My gosh, I'm gonna need a minute. I'm Adam, and this is Brendan and Babe, and they're strangers to me these days, but it's good to see them again. How are you guys doing?
I like how you said your name like a question, like you weren't even sure what your name was there first. Like, Adam?
I'm going through an identity crisis right now. Okay,
but no, I'm doing fine. It's the heat index down here was 110 or 112 today. It's been ridiculous. My phone is popping up with like heat warnings every day down here. It's insane.
See, we keep getting rain like every 3 days, and so it'll rain all day one day, then it'll be overcast and really windy the next day, and then you might have a sunny day, and then it goes back to we're doing okay where we're at, but the southeast part of the state and northeast or northwest Iowa and stuff, they're all getting flooded really bad. So it won't stop raining in this area. It's annoying. It's been
it's just so humid here. It's so humid. It's 100% humidity all the time, all the time.
Yeah, and that's the thing is that one sunny day we get, then it's really humid because you have all that moisture and crap in there.
What about you, babe? How's your temperature been?
I mean, for this area, it's hot for this time of year. A lot of it's dry though, because we usually have more rain than this. It's been really dry. I haven't mowed my lawn for 3 weeks, and for where I live, that's almost unheard of. You don't mow it every 5 days. Usually, it gets out of control. So, yeah.
I'm sure that everybody tuned in just to listen to us talk about the weather.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, so anyway. So yeah, you went on a little excursion this past week.
Yeah, yeah.
We got a little diving in
with my son, and him and I were talking, and he and I have not dove together for 8 years.
Wow.
So it was really good to go with him. I told him that was the best Father's Day present he could have got me right there.
Yeah, that's cool.
We had a blast.
Cool.
And where do you guys go?
Pennyroyal Scuba LLC in Hopkinsville, Kentucky. It's a quarry, and it's set up for divers. It's a lot of fun.
I know.
Well, I sure hope it was. Otherwise, you guys did some very illegal things. If that's the case.
It used to be. I remember. I think a Skin Diver magazine had it as one of the top, landlocked places in the United States to dive at. It, something like that.
Yeah.
What was that about, Adam?
What's the magazine?
Skin Diver.
Skin Diver.
That's a terrible name for a magazine. Because if I was going to go buy that, that's not the reason I'd be buying it. So, anyways, please continue.
Dude, all through the 80s, my dad, because, I know I've told you guys, my dad knew, even though we grew up in the middle of the prairie, my dad knew. And so he got me in the scuba, of course, but he always made sure he got me subscriptions to Skin Diver magazines. So I had tons of those things, and now I wish I had kept them because I threw them all away when I moved.
Your dad was like, "I got you a subscription to Skin Diver." You're like, "Heck yeah!"
I
was too naive as a kid. I didn't know what that was. I had no clue.
There was Skin Diver, and there's another magazine. I remember every time I'd go into any bookstore, I'd always look for the Skin Diver. I can't remember what the other one was. It's a diving magazine too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Anyway, I'd always buy those. Throughout the 80s and 90s, I get those things all the time. Yeah. Anywho, what are we talking about tonight?
The future, isn't that what you have the?
Oh yeah. We're talking. Well, the reason I decided to talk about this is in the podcast and the shorts here. The last couple of weeks, I've been talking about just thinking about the future as far as, hey, how's the future going to look with in this area and that. So I said, well, let's just do a whole entire episode on that we can. And it's a little bit more fun when I have people to counteract and discuss that in more of an open setting type of thing. So whether it's you guys or anybody that's going to chime in that's watching, or later on the VOD or the podcast or whatever like that, people can chime in and give their input as well. But I made slides. So if you listen to the podcast, you probably want to go watch the video because pictures. So yeah, so let's talk about the future of the ocean and what that's going to look like. I think there's been a lot of technologies out there that are either currently out there or coming out there that are going to help form the way that we look not only of how we work and live here on land, in space, but also underwater. And I think that it's a promising and exciting future upon us. I think some of the stuff we're going to talk about we can get into a little bit more. But first and foremost, let's just talk about how you're going to get around as transportation, how you're going to get from here to there, and what different things are out there, coming out there. And I only address a few in here to leave opportunities for you guys to chime in there. But recently, this thing's been hitting the news. And this is from DARPA. And it's the submarine they got out. Here's another picture to show the scale of the thing. Obviously, it's autonomous, but you could build one of these and you could probably get up to some decent speed underwater. It's cool looking for one. But more so is how do you transport people looking underwater from the land to your underwater habitat, to your underwater business, to your whatever it may be, or even if you're floating on the surface, how do you typically you can do a boat or a helicopter or something like that, but maybe you want to go more in style and more secretive. You can just go under the water to your location. So, tourist subs, that was always my idea back in the 90s and stuff like that, is get a nice tourist sub and retrofit that thing with like a docking collar that you could dock onto your habitat and stuff along those lines. And sure, that may be a possibility, but submersibles or different types there. The other thing was the like the Hyperloop. Oh yeah, go ahead, Eben.
Just don't let Boeing design the docking collar.
Or any part of it.
Yeah, or just any of it. Please continue.
Anyway, the other one is the Hyperloop, which had big news like 5-6 years ago. Is all in the news, the Hyperloop. But still, the idea of a underwater train or underwater tram to your locations is still a feasible solution and a quick paced one, especially if you need to get a lot of people from point A to point B. I see, down the road, 50 years from now, when you've got larger complexes or businesses, stuff like that, where you're moving people in and out all the time, you're going to want to do something like that versus a submersible, which I guess you still could do, but it'd have to be on a steady rotation and stuff like that versus this, which is going all the time type of thing. So, yeah, I'm keeping these to about 3 slides each, like I said. So those are some, obviously, you're looking at, if you're underwater, there's also, like elevators and stuff along those lines, but that's not really anything new out there. It's nothing really cutting edge. And in the future, sure, those may be out there, but what are some other ways that you guys may think that we may be getting either to locations off the coast, or underwater or above the water, or have I pretty much covered the main ones?
But the hyper sub, I can't think of his name right now for the life of me.
Mm-hmm.
Who's building it? I mean, the future of that thing. There's possibilities there. There really is.
Yeah, because that's a boat and a sub pretty much.
Yep.
Right. Yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, you could have the best of both worlds there. It's kind of like the back in the day you had Graham Hawks and his deep flight, which was like cutting edge, like some submarines like that. But it's never going to be one where you're going to be able to get a bunch of people from point A to point B, and docking on something was going to be a pain in the butt and stuff along those lines. So yeah, and same thing with like the bionic dolphin and stuff like that. Once again, very cool water-based machine, but it's not practical for moving people. It's more of a recreational fun type of thing. But you could scale up like the Hyper Sub to a larger format and get a lot of people in there. So yeah, stuff along those lines.
Hydrofoil for the surface running, and then James Bond just down into the water.
Yeah, I remember back in the 90s, there's a TV show called Beyond 2000, I think is what it's called. And that's the first place I saw Graham Hawks. And there's even like pre any of the deep flight stuff. It was very early on. And it was the one where you had to lay down in it. And that's all he had out at that point in time. Yeah. So this is like late 90s. And they were also showing off, it was a boat that used sorry, we had comments in here. It was, what did it use? It used electrons. There's trying to think of the word. Anyway, it had no propulsion whatsoever. Basically, what it uses electricity. Is almost like the same idea of like a maglev. That's what it was. It's maglev. It ionized like the water and then pushed it so that it was the moving part, so there was no drag from that standpoint. So technically, it was indefinite as far as the speed, but they could never get it to go more than like a couple knots an hour, an hour or something like that. But it was early on. So yeah.
Wasn't that a concept for like a worm drive for silent running for submarines, like military submarines?
Well, I think they incorporated that there too. They didn't talk about that on this. This looked like a giant barge, is what it looked like. They had incorporated this on, but yeah. And
put an engine on a brick and expected it to go fast.
Well, I mean, it was smooth. But it looked like a big giant pontoon boat or something along those lines.
Okay.
But at the same time, then you start looking at kind of offset here, but the Russians had the super cavitating torpedoes, which I think we have as well now, which you could go 300-400 miles an hour or more. I think you could hit almost any speed because it created a bubble around it, so there's no friction to it. So basically the same thing, but
dolphin saddling.
I mean, I guess you could.
People at tourist places grab a hold of them and they take them on little runs and stuff too. I mean, if we can train horses.
I mean, the whole concept is.
I'm just saying, let's not rule it out.
I mean, I guess it could be like the Old West, where you want to take a horse instead of a car. I guess you could take a dolphin instead of like riding luxury in a submersible or something.
Just hold your breath.
Yeah.
If we're going that far, we need to genetically change seahorses into giant seahorses so you can ride them like Aquaman.
Okay, the difference is, babe, I was being serious and you're turning.
Okay.
So with that being said, I'll hop on to our next little point here. But one of the things may be a little out of order here, but the next thing is we're talking about what kind of support are we going to have underwater as far as cleaning the things, constructing them things. It used to be, it was all going to be, underwater architects, or underwater welders, underwater machinists, stuff along those lines. That may not be the case in the near future, as we're seeing more and more, especially from Elon and Tesla. You got these, but there's a bunch of other companies working on these androids too, and obviously they're going to be used. They're already being used to some extent in Tesla factories, and they'll be, used definitely to go to space and print stuff there. So same thing. Why couldn't they be used underwater for different purposes? Whether it's just maintenance on underwater habitats, the heavy lifting of working them, even some exploratory things too. So because they can deal with the pressure, you don't have to worry about them drowning, and they're replaceable too. So that's one option out there. As far as otherwise, you're going to be looking at like ROVs, and that may be an option still too, is taking ROV, doing that. But I think that if the companies are able to crack this code here with androids, it's going to change everything, and it's going to devastate industries around the world as far as employees and stuff. But at the same time, it's going to make things like building things in space, building things underwater, building things in harsh climates so much easier, so much better, so much cheaper too, in the long run. But then you may have to run into this as well. So
are those Cybermen from Doctor Who?
I just used AI to make those.
Oh, okay, my bad. They look like Cybermen from Doctor Who. Sorry.
Yeah. So yeah. I mean, there's not too many options out there. You either stick with the standard the status quo that's been out there forever, is using divers to do all this type of stuff. Which there's always going to be that. Well, I say always, but there's not always going to be there. But for a while, there'll be that transitional period where you'll use them, especially for some fine-tuned things. But eventually, most businesses will move to a automated system. Now, I could be wrong, and it could all collapse, but I guess time will tell.
I don't see them staying as humanoid bipedal though to be underwater.
No,
I just don't see that.
the smart thing would be to give them marine-like features because, like, essentially, and we've talked about it a long time ago, but the whole concept of why you can't, it's hard to replicate. Our underwater vehicles can't move fast because we don't know how to replicate the movement of marine animals. So, I mean, technically, yeah, I'm sure there will be, I don't know. I don't ever see there being a bipedal underwater robot, just more so advanced ROVs that can, that have more functions and gizmos and gadgets attached to them to do the maintenance and repair and building, whatever it may be.
I think it'll boil down to the cost too, because if the bipedal robots are the standard across the board and the cost is down there so much and they can do the job, a lot of people will buy them because of the cheapest way of doing it versus getting a specialized design that's going to cost more because it's going to be specialized for that industry. So I think it'll boil down to the cost more than anything for a lot of people.
You still have to put a suit on them.
Why?
I don't know. Corrosion? I don't know. Are they made out of stainless steel?
Probably.
Oh, all right. Well, you got it figured out. No, never mind.
Well, what the second Avatar movie?
Yeah.
Those crab walkers. The crab vehicles.
Yeah.
So, because I know there's a crab type vehicle they use for timbering in some areas because it's get some places wheels won't.
Sure.
Tracks won't.
Yeah. No, I mean there'll be obviously be the heavy lifters and the specialized ones for those bigger jobs. I don't know. It's going to be interesting. It'll be interesting to see how quickly this stuff moves along and how much it does revolutionize some of this stuff. Next up on the list, construction. Is what new construction stuff out there and how's it going to change the way that, as we look at underwater habitats is what we focus on around here. So that's kind of what I took into mind here. And obviously the whole advent of 3D printing is growing. And then, here's a 3D printed house right here that they're making already all the place and with the concrete, which, a lot of people are very sold on concrete for underwater habitats. It definitely has its pros and cons, but I think there's newer concretes out there that are able to be more manipulated and are better options than there was even 20 years ago for that purpose. And some people are like, well, you're going to have these harsh edges and stuff, but there are ones like this is over in the Middle East that was built, which is very futuristic, modern style, 3D printed house. That's cool. I'll throw this out here. Miriam, thank you very much for joining us. I appreciate your we'll definitely check you out. I'm very interested. I'll throw you. We'll contact and we'll talk. It's nice to have people come in here, especially like a lot of people from X here tonight. So that's great. You don't have that many from X usually in here, but it's starting to grow. Thank you. You too. I can't say those words.
It's mahalo. Dude, I live in South Dakota, and even I know it's mahalo. Jeez.
I'm kidding.
I don't know how to say that. You should rethink a lot of things then right now.
Well, that may be the facts.
When it comes to concrete,
yeah,
I don't know if it's just because it's cheap or what, but there doesn't have to be harsh edges on concrete.
No, and we're seeing that here with this stuff.
Yeah.
And the other thing too is obviously metals or polymers and something along those lines. And this was a 3D printed submarine that came out several years ago. I think the Navy did that or something along those lines. So obviously there's underwater applications that are already out there being tested and being used. So it's not unheard of to 3D print an underwater habitat. Still the cost is up there now, but as we're looking down the road in the future, those costs are going to come down like anything else. And it may make more sense just to have a factory just 3D printing out underwater habitats instead of, what we've been looking at in the past. And then even steel. Here's a bridge that came out a couple of years ago that was 3D printed all in steel.
Wow.
Yeah. So there isn't any. We're to the point where 3D printing, even though it's still its infancy, it's matured enough that we can do pretty much most things from it now, especially on an industrial standpoint. So it's exciting, and I think that if we can, work with different companies and stuff like that, we can definitely be building some really cool underwater or even floating, because we don't want to. We still need that as well. Habitats out there. Any input on those guys?
No, that was my first thought, was 3D stuff.
Yeah.
So it's just
in general, seeing the mass manufacturing of like tiny homes and
right.
like the concrete 3D printed stuff. Yeah, it's cool watching it become a more viable option for like lots of construction, because that means it can be a viable option for us as well.
Yeah. I mean, obviously at the start, our prototype and stuff like that, it's unlikely going to be 3D
handmade.
printed. Yeah, it'll be more handmade. But I think that this is an option that I'd really like to tackle a little bit more and get some more people, get somebody that knows more about it, that's dealt with the industrial aspect of 3D printing, maybe even get them on here to talk to what options we have and cost and all that too. Miriam's got, I just proposed to Elon to build a submersible star base for ocean dwellers to access rockets. Yeah, actually, I don't know if we talked about that on here or not, but as he had bought those oil derricks, which they've now sold. But I thought, say, if you're going to need places for those people to stay, you don't want them staying up on deck when the rockets try and launch and stuff on those lines. So if you had underwater habitats attached to it or close by that they could access that, you could build your own little underwater starbase per se around those launch platforms and have it either some on the water, but I think most of them, for safety's sake, you're going to want to have underwater, either housing not only people but the different gases that are needed and other stuff like that, and resources and supplies and stuff too. So yeah, 100%. I mean, I've shot him some posts back when it was Twitter back in the day, but obviously he gets, I'm sure, bombarded with messages. I highly doubt.
Yeah, he gets a lot of. I'm sure he gets a lot of business proposals to him on the daily.
I'm sure. So I didn't expect him to respond, but yeah, 100%. I totally agree with you and your sentiment on there. I think that the combination of what the ocean is doing and what space is doing can be a cohesive, and there can be a marriage there of sorts that we can both benefit from each other. And we have talked about that before, about the similarities between space and the ocean and how we can learn from each other and use each other's technologies to benefit each other.
And I feel bad here because I can't get his name to come to my brain, but our friend in Turkey.
Martin.
Yeah, and he's been working with their space program.
Yeah, I actually just got some messages I haven't looked at right now from him this morning, because they were actually in talks for financing. They're getting very close to some stuff, but he wasn't sure how it was going to play through. So I just got some messages I haven't looked at. I actually got 4 different people I'm in conversations with about underwater stuff right now. I just haven't ignored today while I focused on this tonight. So yeah, there's a lot of good stuff going on out there. We'll see. But yeah, the next area I think we're going to focus on is the infrastructure standpoint of supporting underwater future or even an ocean-based future. In what areas are there? Miriam wants to know if we're in contact with deep.com. So yes, we have talked to them quite a bit. They said they actually know of us and they watch our podcasts and stuff, listen to our podcasts and stuff. We try to get an interview with them, back and forth emails. I don't know if they're just so busy at the time and it fell through. I should probably reach back out to them. But that's as far as it's gone. They know who we are. We've talked, but that's about all that's come from that at this point in time. But thanks for reminding me, because yeah, that'd be a cool one to get in touch with and just talk to them a little bit more. Because I mean, what they're working on is basically a similar process where they understand that the modularity is the key to building anything underwater instead of just one giant habitat or a smaller habitat. And if you can build off of a small section and add to it, you can grow that. And the ability to, even though it's in a permanent setting, be able to move it to another location also is important, which we share very much. Really have been talking about that for years now. So, yeah, very cool what they're working on.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool. So,
I was talking of infrastructure.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have already some lined up? Otherwise,
go for it though.
I was just going to say I can't help it. I keep going back to those guys that did the reactor in a freight container, and it was Power City. It's like, that's amazing, because with today's future, we're always going to have that danger of it. But I know with technology, we're able to control it better, or like way better.
Yeah.
And I think it still has a lot of positive attributes.
I didn't put
being underwater.
I didn't put any kind of reactor on here just because of the concern factor of it. But I agree. Yeah. I think that they've just gotten that so much smaller and smaller now that they're working with fission and stuff along those lines too. Obviously, they'll get down there, the cost down. So yeah, it definitely is a potential future. And one of the things we talked about, I'm going to get off here a little bit, but I think I talked about in the podcast, was that something Martin and I had talked about was that, hey, even those habitats out there, we all don't have to be working towards the same necessarily goal. Like one of us, we could all be working together, and like say ASC handles all the infrastructure needs. We're handling the power generation, power storage. We're not housing anybody, but we're taking care of all that aspect. Whereas he's got all the people living in there, but we tether each other together so that whereas the power we're generating or the data centers or the oxygen or whatever, we're supplying that to him, and he takes care of the living standpoints. Not one company has to worry about all aspects of it in order to grow this. That's why I try to keep him in contact, because we're going to need more and more companies out there building underwater habitats and building different ones in order to really move this faster along than having one or two companies out there doing it. So there are companies.
The same idea for the transportation.
Yeah, 100%.
We're not doing the transportation.
No.
So someone else needs to.
Yeah, absolutely. And even back in the day, I had some designs for different transportation and stuff along those lines. But then I was like, it's like, man, I'm having not having enough time just getting anything done with the habitat. I'm not going to even mess with the transportation. But yeah. But anyway, with the infrastructure, data centers, communication, that's going to be a big one. Obviously, Microsoft, China, South Korea, all these different companies countries have already messed with that to some extent as far as data centers go. Communication has always been tricky because of transmitting anything through the water. So that's going to be a big one that's going to advance. Right now, you have to have some kind of tether to the surface. I think that we will eventually get some sort of new form of technology that will be able to permeate that. But as of right now, it doesn't exist. You have something there, babe?
Yes.
Okay, go for it.
Okay. So, I'm going to throw one out for Garmin here. I hope it doesn't get us in trouble on YouTube, but with their technology that they're using, a guy did a video using one of these dive computers and the pod unit that goes on your regulator system. He was 10 meters and still getting the signal.
And so when I talked to companies a couple of years ago, they said the issue isn't so much the signal, it's the amount of data can be transmitted. You can get little bits of data, text documents and stuff like that through the water, fine. It's when you start doing anything larger than that. So images, video, voice, all that kind of stuff, that's where there is the issue. So there is technology out there. It's just not robust enough, wavelength or whatever it may be to permeate that. So that's cool. We'll talk to you a little bit more about that too. But yeah, I think that the communication is one of the bigger bottlenecks as far as being completely submerged underwater right now. Um, but the data centers isn't. It's already been done. It's already been proven that it will work. There's all the benefits we've talked about ad nauseum already about data centers. We could once again talk for another half hour on data centers in here because we've done so much information, and then we believe that it's such a core to ASC and what we're trying to do, that data centers are a business structure that is for the profitability of the company. We're very strong on them. So yeah, that's one of the ones out there. What else? Oh yeah, food. What are you going to do for your food? Obviously, underwater greenhouses. Again, Nemo and their Nemo's Garden out there has been doing this for quite a while. They've got some really cool stuff. Obviously, it's on a much smaller scale, but even there are shipping containers set up around the world right now that have greenhouses in them with no external contact. So that could easily be transferred to an underwater platform and have a greenhouse underwater producing all your vegetables and stuff along those lines.
Well, and one thing we've talked about this a lot in the past, but I mean, if we have methods of transporting people to and from these we have methods of transporting goods, right. So it's just like it's a cool concept to also be able to produce stuff.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of times people will look at this as in like trying to be 100% self-sustainable when it's essentially, in my opinion, you're still going to have that commerce as well. Sure. Between, and having, people, like you said, supply shipments, whatever, to and from, just like anything else. But to your guys' point, having a way of supplementing that as well is nice as well. So it's just like, because the cost of probably trying to transport a bunch of goods back and forth on a regular basis in the early stages would probably be a little costly. It's not like Amazon Prime probably. So having a way to,
I think that's where it boils down to too, is the cost. Also, at the same time, is if you're living a healthier life by living underwater because you're breathing purified air, you're living in a enclosed structure that you're not getting the effects of radiation and all that kind of stuff from the outside world. Do you want to bring the processed food in here or the plates and stuff like that? I think there will be some people that are totally fine with that, and as long as you're close enough to shore, that's totally doable. But I think some people are going to. And once again, we're just guessing here. I'm saying, I would think that if you're one of those almost complete off the grid type of people, you're going to want to be growing your own stuff. You're going to have your own thing, and your colony is going to be mindset is going to be around that too. So I can see both ways, especially with like meat and dairy and stuff like that. I was going to say fish, but that makes no sense. But you got to bring the fish from shore. Yeah.
We don't like local stuff.
Like beef and chicken and stuff like that. That's going to be coming in from land until we're able to 3D print it or have good, viable vegan alternatives that have all the same benefits and stuff. But yeah, I agree. I think I can see both ways on that one there.
Just for the record, me, Adam.
Yes.
I don't eat celery, and I'm not going to start just because you put me in a nice environment underwater. I'm not going to start deciding to make better life choices then. So
I'll eat any vegetable as long as it's raw. Once you start like steaming it or cooking it, that's what I get out. Just, what's really good is the kale crunch fillet. That thing is amazing.
Isn't that what I tried saying one time to you, and you're just like, gross? Because I said something about I was trying to repeat your Chick-fil-A order, and I said something about kale, and you're like, gross.
I don't remember.
This was not that long ago. Anyways, please proceed.
Miriam's got, I support water in water environments, underwater farms of fish under the oceans. Yes. And actually, we've got a friend, Mitchell, with Arc Pad. Arc Pad whatever. Sorry. I get those two mixed up. And they got a hexafarm actually floating on the surface right now where they're harvesting fish and lobster and a bunch of other stuff along those lines, and they're making a nice little business out of that. So let me
I'm looking it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, Art Pad.
No, yeah, ArcPad. Yes, correct. It's ARK, like Noah's Ark pad. So yeah, they're working on that, and I've been talking to him recently about all that as well. So that's some exciting stuff. So yeah, food obviously is one of the necessities. Oxygen is another one. I didn't have a slide for that, but that's going to be something else. Right now, obviously, it gets pumped in um, from the surface like that. But if once we get to the point where we can separate the oxygen from the water around us and generate our own oxygen, I mean that's obviously ideal, and that's doable right now. I think that it'll be one of the things where we'll probably be solving that probably before. I mean, having those before we even have the communication thing figured out, as far as being completely self-sustained. Miriam Scott, believe it or not, but this is the first live broadcast I'm listening to. Well, very cool. Well, thank you very much. We appreciate it. Yeah, for some reason, we're having a lot of people in here tonight. We haven't been on for about 3 weeks, so that may be part of it. But we try to do this about every other week. And we've had interviews on here of different people or interviewed them off and then put the video up here as well about what the ocean and stuff pertaining to around underwater habitats or ocean as well. We've had people, Mitchell from ArcPad. We've had Ben from Arctide. We've had people from Ocean Builders. We've interviews with different people over the years on here. We're passionate about the ocean and the future of living under the water for the most part, for us at least. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, it occurred to me because you're talking about data center stuff again, but that picture you showed when you're talking about some infrastructure with all the different pods under the water, now with AI, where we have these analog displays for each I don't know what you would call each module or whatever. So right now, Aquarius and Jules, and it's all this analog. But since we're talking about in the future, you'd have one AI brain that's going to monitor all of it.
Mm-hmm.
And adjustments here, and it's going to make it.
Yeah.
You literally, except for a backup system, you literally won't worry about any of that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, to an extent, right. That the technology is already out there for the most part. It's a dumbed down version, but yeah.
Yeah.
But the other thing, what we talked about earlier, is energy power generation. Obviously, here's a mock-up of an OTEC, ocean thermal energy, which a lot of people tend to think for the ocean, that's the ideal way of going because of the simplicity of how it works. And it's a never-ending renewable form of energy where you take the colder water down below and you pump it up to the warmer water, and it runs turbines and so forth and so on. Unlike solar or wind, it's running all the time. Same thing with waves. That's why different types of hydro are very attractive as well. But obviously, as you can see, it's a larger thing. So getting that shrunk down, kind of like they've done with nuclear over the years, getting that shrunk down to a smaller, more mobile format is going to be the key for OTEC, where it's safe. Even I'm not saying that nuclear is not, because obviously it's got I think it's one of the safer track records out there of energy out there, especially for what it produces. But some people may still be, because of the social stigma from it, maybe more apt to an OTEC or some other form of energy production and energy storage too.
And, again, with the future, water is a big source of hydrogen. So there is the possibility still of pulling that, making that happen.
If you're splitting your oxygen, you're going to have your leftover as hydrogen.
Yep.
So what do you do with that? Once again, that could be a byproduct you could sell as a revenue source, or you use it to power your habitat. Except for it is kind of an explosive form of energy to be having around. But once again, I guess as long as you're careful with it, like anything.
I think a lot of those styles of energy production, whether it's the geothermal or like you spoke earlier about nuclear and all that, like where, and I'm skeptical of some of it too, but I think a lot of people's gut reaction is to think about some of the mishaps in the past with that stuff. But when you dig into those things, you realize a lot of those mishaps were severe human negligence.
Right.
And, it wasn't the concept that it's just unstable and not that it's not safe and it's not clean and all that. It's the fact that people that should have known better did not do the correct things to keep the operation safe. So just like any other industry, if you are not trained and you are doing things that you're not supposed to be, there are going to be consequences. It's just there's certain things that are much more consequential. So that's just my 2 cents with.
I think that goes back to what we were talking about earlier with the androids. If they get in there and they're taking over, there is no human error at that point in time. For the most part, so that negates that issue there as well. So that issue may be solved in the near future either way.
Unless they purposely let it go wrong to get rid of us.
That could be too.
Skynet.
Yeah.
The humans are dead. Miriam's also she's wanting to know if there's any gravity plants for the ocean. Honestly, I don't know anything about that. I'm completely ignorant.
Is that I wonder if those are the ones... Because she says below that electric generated by gravity, kinetic energy.
And then she's got this gravitypower.com is one, energy vault.
Because I know they have like that tidal stuff where they use the paddles that ride along the current.
And maybe that's what okay, yeah.
Unless that's a whole separate deal, but I do know that they're experimenting with that a lot more.
Good point. Yeah, I'm not sure. I guess I'm just ignorant on that.
We'll have to check out the thing she sent us.
That's ignorant.
.com,
the last section we'll cover this evening.
Let's cover it.
Is the living. What's the living going to look like?
That's the part we want to do, right?
Well, I mean, we kind of want to. I mean, it's all kind of important, but yes.
But the living part's a pretty big deal.
First off, before we get into it, Miriam says it's super simple. They just lift blocks. It's more consistent than wind and solar. So yeah, I have seen there was something I think what Adam was talking about right offshore where it was like the tidal waves would lift the blocks and that would do it. So he's because once again tidal is consistent. It's all the time going. So it's another consistent form of power. So yeah, there is that as well. Again, I don't know much about that, but I do know that it does exist to some extent out there. All right. So first and foremost, we'll talk about the low-hanging fruit, which is the ones that have been out there, and the floating ones out there, like people like there's Ocean. What's her name?
Ocean Builders?
Yeah, Ocean Builders. Wow. Hey, Ocean Builders. I just literally talked about it 5 minutes ago.
They're going to be so upset with you.
I know. Ocean Builders, ArcPad, ArcTide, all of them have had something on the water or have something on the water for people to live in. And in moving that route, we've lived on the water for ever pretty much. Houseboats are not something new, but this is a little bit more advanced than just a houseboat. Sure. These are designed to take some waves. They're actually Ocean Builders right now is working on their deep model, which can go deeper out in the water. And a lot of these will have some sort of underwater aspect to them as well, whether it's a room or something along those lines too. And that's kind of what we've talked in the past because the Seasetting Institute, who's really big on the floating houses, and we're friends with them as well. Actually, we're on their page as far as one of the projects. I've said, hey, we can coincide where ASC or other underwater habitats, whomever they may be, can take care of the stuff that you don't want on the surface, whether it is, again, energy consumption, generation, storage, etc., waste reclamation and producing stuff like that. Or it can just be simply as a different getaway where if somebody's coming out there for like an Airbnb, they have a night or two on the, for example, Ocean Builders and then a night underwater too. These different aspects out there can be great for moving forward Sorry, I had told brain fart there that. Anyway, they just like looking at me. But beyond that, what we're focused on is underwater and how that looks like. This is the image from the Maraca over in Maldives, which is labeled. They advertise themselves as like the only underwater hotel in the world, which is not accurate. When all that, and I'm not trying to downplay it because it's an amazing engineering feat here what they've done. But yeah, it's spendy too. The prices come down over the years. I keep on looking at it every once in a while, but still, I think like 20,000 a night or something like that to stay there or something like that. It's not cheap.
Plus, Maldives is a very expensive tourist destination.
You're spending a bunch of money to get there anyway, so you kind of know what you're getting into. But the goal is to get this into a format and a cost that everybody can stay at, whether they're owning it and living it themselves or whether they're just staying there as an Airbnb or for some vacation point. Is how do you get to that? And that's what we're working on. But anyway, this one is out there right now. It's basically a room underneath. There's like a pier that comes out. And actually, we have on our website, we've got a design for something similar at a lower cost where you go on the pier and you can go down and you can stay in it. And that's basically the same thing that they have here. So, yeah. And there's a couple other ones out there. Obviously, there's Jules Undersea Lodge, which Babe and me have both stayed at, which is really, you have to swim out, dive to it, and get out to it. It's completely out in the middle of nothing. Nobody else is getting to you very easily, unlike these, which obviously, once again, our goal is we don't want you to have to get wet in order to get into your underwater habitat or your underwater home or resort or whatever like that is. But there are those out there right now that you do have to do that for. And there's some other ones out there that are like, there's a floating room that has an underwater room to it, and there's a lot of those out there. So there are different ones at different price points, at different designs that claim to be underwater hotels, and take it with a grain of salt, I guess. But then the future is to have an underwater home that you can come home to that is your home. Maybe you have a land home too, I don't know. And business as well. What does your business look like when it's moving to the underwater for whatever reason? Because it's more secure from EMPs or your data centers right there, or you're working with energy or scientific research and all these different ways that you may want to live underwater or work underwater. It's the ultimate prepper location as well to avoid all humanity and live out the apocalypse that if you foresee that's impending or whatever like that too. So there's different people, there's different reasons, and there's different designs and stuff like that out there. It just depends on what you're trying to do. So,
well, we do know for a fact that if we can get more than like 10 people to live in an underwater facility, there will be a Dollar General.
I was like, where are you going with this?
There will be a Dollar General that shows up.
That's what we need to do is partner with like Dollar General or Casey's or something like that.
Man, we're about to start. We're about to start something, and they're like, "Yeah, let's here we go."
I want to do a Casey's just because of their pizza, though. They have amazing pizza.
Well, let's not promote them until they're ready to.
All right, my bad.
Partner with it. We need to do a partnership. Yeah, like a triple partnership with Casey's and Dollar General. The Casey's Dollar General Atlanta Sea Colony Underwater Habitat.
Yeah. Miriam's got another comment here. She's talking about how her art museum is underwater. Now, I'd love to see some images of that and stuff like that.
Yeah, send us a link. We'll put it in our Discord, and actually join our Discord if you're not already.
No. She said she followed us. I'm guessing here on X.
I just looked her up on X. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Very cool. So basically, that's what I got. So unless there's anybody that's got comments that we want to talk about some different stuff, whether it's this or anything else that you guys want to talk about.
Real quick, Brendan, meaning we have so many people viewing us right now. You showed a lot of AI stuff, but I think while we wrap this up, you should show the ASC design so people know what ASC is about.
Let me pull some stuff up here.
Just so, because like I said, you showed a lot of other designs, but ASC...
Show the good ones, not the ghetto ones, okay?
Yeah, don't show them your little crayon drawings that you have. Get those nice rendered ones that you had made.
I honestly wish I still had my old drawings from like the 90s and the early 2000s and stuff. I don't know where those are. Or the old GeoCities webpage. That was the good stuff right there. Let's see here. I'm going to share the screen if I can find it.
Well, while you're looking for it, I was thinking earlier what Brendan or what Adam had said, about commerce, and the future is going to be so different because what's your supply and demand for living underwater,
Yeah.
Scroll down.
It's going to be neat.
Scroll down, please.
What?
I feel like he's trying to tell you to scroll down.
You're only showing like half of the picture.
Oh, I couldn't understand what you were saying there.
Like scroll down.
Anyway, so yeah, we go to the habitat.
Scroll back down. It's like you get a sneak peek. That's it.
But you gotta go to the website and check it out. We need the clicks.
You could.
So yeah, so I mean, we've
website.
got the different ones here, depending on what you want to do. All based the same idea. Basically, yeah, this works good. Different images here of the habitat. I'm trying to see here's an overview with kind of design layout where if you can scuba dive down to it and come up underneath of it, just like they do right now at Jules and other locations, dry off, and then have your whole living area like that. That may not be what some people want. That's not the long-term goal for ASC anyway. So let's get. For some reason, we got really fast internet. It's running kind of slow. Scroll down here. So this is what I was talking about before, where you can just come out on the pier, take some stairs down, elevator, whatever, and stay in your underwater. Underwater
Habitate.
Yes.
Yeah,
beautiful.
Miriam, the idea, it's future goal, but I mean, trying to from the start. Well, I was going to say you probably got it covered. Well, I was going to answer.
Go for it. Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
The idea is a one atmosphere living, so the same as on the surface. So you're not talking any extra oxygen or anything in the air to make it more flammable for any reason. So yeah, you'd still be able to use an oven. And with keeping it one atmosphere, the pressure difference shouldn't change much of what you're cooking, no more than living here from Colorado or something or sea level to Colorado or something like that here in the States. And it's just a drastic pressure change or elevation changes that causes baking and cooking to differ.
Yeah. And then obviously the end goal is more of this format here, which is a more modular approach, where we can do a modular approach with the other one. But these, oops, the image is huge. I can't even get out of it. Oh, that's because I'm on my wallpaper is the same image. That's why. Well, for crying out loud.
To a certain depth, Miriam, it is a reality to a certain depth. It's going to be a cost versus, because you're going to have to build a structure to withstand the pressure to be able to hold one atmosphere pressure. So the end result is, yes, it's doable to a certain depth, but then it's going to be offset by cost.
Yeah, 20 feet. Yeah, actually, that most of ours we're looking at around a 20-foot area, just because of the one atmosphere, like Babe was talking about. We're trying, especially in those. Now these other ones here can go to at least a more depth, and honestly, you probably could with the other ones too. It's just been an engineering thing. But these here are more modular. So you got each one of these pods here that can be replaced or added onto. As you can see on the other side, there's 3 more bays. And you could just daisy chain off to that and have a larger spread out habitat as big as you really wanted to go. Obviously, we here show in this one, you can see my mouse, yeah, data centers here, living here, and then the greenhouse here. But you could do whatever. They could all be living and pump all your electricity and everything from the surface if you wanted to. So that's kind of what we're looking at with that one's obviously further down the road. but we like to show that one off there. We put it on our website as well.
Yeah,
But
we've talked about that, Miriam. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
no.
Tsunamis, so drastic changes of water depth over you. So something has to be built in. Is either a backup system, or for at least start, these things be like ocean builders, where they've started building in places where hurricanes and normally tsunamis wouldn't be an issue, but I know Mother Earth has different ideas sometimes about that.
We're not going to let her dictate what we do.
Yeah, please do. If you got any questions, whatsoever, just shoot us a message. I'm pretty prompt about trying to answer all these things. And if it's in Discord, I'm sure somebody will chime in. We have some very vocal people in there.
All that, and we respond on the socials pretty well too.
Yeah.
Actually, Brendan's cell phone number is.
Actually, honestly, I think it is on my LinkedIn. But.
Well, yeah, but you have the Google one.
I don't think so.
Oh, you should probably change that.
Yeah, whatever.
You should look into it. Anyways.
So yeah,
it was fun hanging out with you boys tonight.
Hey, thank you again, Miriam, for hopping in here and interacting. Definitely makes it more. And we love answering questions, so it's fun to have you in here.
Man, we haven't ever had this many viewers, especially from X on here, so that's been kind of cool.
It's a changing world, man.
Yeah, I wonder what algorithms directing some people towards it. So I'm not complaining though. Brendan, your internet is pooping out, dude. So I guess that's a thing. Well, boys, you want me to do the outro?
Yep.
See if I still remember how to do this.
See what Brendan says.
Go for it.
All right. So what Brendan was just showing a second ago, AtlanticSeaColony.com. Go there and you can get all the info I'm about to talk about anyways, but it's just kind of the hub. You can get all of our socials on there. We're on Facebook, Instagram, X. We're on LinkedIn. I don't know if I already said that. YouTube, as well as TikTok. We have... did I say YouTube? Yeah, I did say YouTube. But basically, all the big socials and video distributing platforms and stuff like that, we're on there. Brendan sets up reels all the time to distribute through Instagram and Facebook and TikTok, all that. So follow us on all those social medias. And not to sound like a broken... I want to know why you're smirking, dude.
I'll explain off camera.
Okay. Anyways, but not to sound like one of those YouTubers or whatever, but like and subscribe, share, because I think that's one of the reasons we had higher viewership today from X, which is nice. Yeah. So also, while you are on the website, go over to AtlanticSeaColony.com/merch. Now,
actually, you can't. I took it down. We need to take that down. It's not up anymore.
Oh. Well, forget I said anything.
Yeah.
We'll have to discuss that.
And hey, look who's here. Brian's here. Hey, Brian, man, we haven't heard from you forever. Wow-wee.
Discord. We talked about Discord. The link for that is also on the website. A lot of discussion going on in there all the time. Plus, it's nice because it's organized discussion. So we have different threads for different discussions, whether you want to talk about the locations, you want to talk about designs, you want to talk about infrastructure, you want to talk about whatever it is, or if you just want to talk about we have a channel there just to talk about underwater movies and stuff, video games, just stuff like that. So it's fun to do that as well. Also, patreon.com/AtlanticSeaColony. It's one of the ways you can support us. So thank you to our current patrons. We got Brian Acosta, who just checked in a second ago, Matthew Cathy, Martin Reese, S. Babe Hyde, Adam Jewell, and Ron Traxler. So thank you to all of our patrons. That money helps with just raising funds for this project. It helps with the marketing of this project. It helps with just all sorts of stuff. Because really at this moment, it's mostly self-funded by Brendan at the moment. I mean, he puts his paychecks and stuff
you guys
into
help
it.
out too. I mean,
But I mean, I'm saying other than Patreon.
Oh yeah.
Brendan kind of just funnels a lot of his money into it. So if you're looking for ways to help and you want to be able to do that, that's a nice way to do it. We have different tiers. We have 5, 10, 25, or is it 5, 15, 25?
It's 5, 15, 25.
5, 15, 25. It's just nice to help. It goes a long way. You do $5 a month for a year. That's $60, which makes a huge difference whether you think it does or not. So, so appreciate all the Patreon members that we have. Thank you for your continued support. Also, check out Colonize the Ocean podcast. A lot of these live streams get converted into the podcast, but then Brennan also puts up like strictly podcasts as well. So those are on, as far as I know, it's on every podcast player app out there. If for some reason you can't find it, let us know, because we'd be curious to know. But as far as I know, it's on all the big ones. So check that out. Subscribe to that. Other than that, I don't have anything else to add, boys.
Here's the thing. I hate getting off here because we got so many people interacting with us tonight. But we'll focus there real bad.
Actually, let's throw the Discord link directly into there, because if we have the.
Do you have it? I mean, it's in the link for the show notes already. But well, here, we can probably get it fast enough.
I was trying to figure out. I had Discord closed out because my wife was using the computer the other day, and she's like, "Why does it keep beeping at me?" And I'm like, "It's people keep sending messages."
Oh, Discord.
Yeah.
Here. I got it. There you go.
Right. But from the Discord, especially everybody that's been able to tune in. Oh, it doesn't push to X.
No, it doesn't. Which where most of the people are from.
That's where everybody's from right now.
No, we got 2 from YouTube and 1 from Facebook as well.
Yeah. But anyways,
I'll throw it on. I'll throw it on next. I'll make a post and throw it on there or whatever.
But the plan, like you said earlier, you try to do it every 2 weeks, Tuesday nights, 7:30 Central, and then they go as long as we have content for. If there's enough interaction and stuff. Also, Brendan is open to suggestions as far as like if you have certain topics you'd like,
absolutely.
or if you know of certain people that would be good. People to be on, that'd be willing to be on, that have something to contribute to this whole thing, or
even more, if you want to be involved. That's something we also talk about too. Is do you have a skill set? Obviously, everybody here, we volunteer our time to do this at this point in time because we don't make any money at this point in time. I was looking for investors and that sort of thing. But if you have a skill set that can definitely help us out, are you creative? Can you do social media? Can you contact people? We've got 50,000 different things we're trying to do here at any point in time. Like I said, I have 4 different messages from 4 different people right now going on that I left unread today while I focused on getting ready for tonight. It's always something going on that we could definitely probably move a whole lot faster. Well, we could move a whole lot faster with more people helping out in different skill sets. So, shoot us a message if that's you, or you know somebody that might want to be involved in something like this. It'd be great.
It would be great. I don't know what else to say.
Well, then let's close her out. Everybody, thank you very much for chiming in here, for watching tonight,
thank you
for everything. We appreciate you. We hope that it was exciting. We hope that we inspired you to, thank you very much.
Follow us and like us and join us in 2 weeks.
Absolutely.
I'm assuming. All right.
Probably.
Take care, everybody. Good night. Hey, have a happy 4th for all you Americans.
Yeah.
Be safe. God bless America. Why isn't it going?